Persephone here, helping you to higher consciousness, and in this video I am going to explain what is the Council of Light. And you may already have heard about the Galactic Council of Light, but what you might not know is that every single one of us, including you, is related to one of the 10 senior members of the Council's inner circle. In fact, we are their direct descendants. And not only that, but we will all join the council ourselves one day, once our souls reach a certain level of development. I'm going to explain how it all works in this video, and by the end you will know the names of each of the 10 senior council members, what they do, their characteristics, and how all of that relates to you. And who knows, you might even recognise yourself in there. If you don't know me, my name is Sophia Persephone Ambrose, and I am a spiritual teacher and an artist from London, England. I went through my own spiritual awakening in 2020 and 2021, and I am now fully integrated with my higher self, a soul named Sophia, who is one of the 10 senior council members that I'm going to talk about in this video. My purpose in this life is to guide other people through their own awakenings. So if you want to make sure you catch my latest videos where I teach all about this stuff, just hit the subscribe button below, and I publish new videos every week. So, what is the Council of Light? The Council of Light has been around for almost as long as the architect of our universe. Now, the architect is the being that many cultures think of as God or the creator, and she's not quite either of those things, but it is correct to say that she, along with the council, built our universe. Now, right at the beginning of time, when she decided that she wanted to construct this world that we live in, the architect was given 144 beings to help her, and this is the original Council of Light. And as the universe has grown, so has the council. So now it extends across the billions of galaxies, but the original inner circle of 10 still heads it up. And if you're wondering how they cover such a vast area, it is because souls have the ability to replicate themselves. In fact, all souls must replicate themselves at some point as part of the learning journey. This happens once we reach a certain level of maturity, and it's where our idea of twin flames comes from here on Earth. But in fact, a soul can replicate many more times than just twice, and it usually does. So the term twin flame is actually a bit of a misnomer. Now, below the 10 council members in the inner circle, there are teams of other senior beings or higher evolved souls, whatever you want to call them, and they are also members of this extended council. So it's a vast organisation, and it sounds strange to us here on Earth to be talking about a galactic council because the workings of the outer dimension are generally hidden from us when we're in this environment. But in the higher dimensions, the Council of Light is really well known, just as we know the names of leaders here on Earth. And one day we will be as familiar with the Council from our vantage point here on Earth as we are in the higher dimensions when we're up there. So, the Council of Light's role is to oversee the universe and just keep everything moving towards the final destination of Nirvana, which I will talk about in another video. So it very much stands for good and for the well-being of all souls in the universe, and that is why it's called the Council of Light. So let's talk about the 10 beings of the inner circle. The most important thing to understand is that these 10 souls are the direct descendants of the architect, and all souls in the universe are their direct descendants, including you, including me. So you can think of it as there being a great cascade of souls flowing downwards and outwards, and this is what we call the soul tree. It's very like the family trees we see here on Earth, and I have another video coming up on it very soon, so if you subscribe, make sure you don't miss it, and that will fill in some of the gaps for you. So each of these 10 council members represents specific aspects of the architect, and you can think of it as being each of them being 10% of her, if you like. And each of them then oversees the specific aspects of the universe which align best with their personality, their ability, and their interests. And I'm going to tell you all of the names of the 10 members of the Council of Lights Inner Circle in just a moment. But firstly, I wanted to give you a heads up because you will recognize many of these names from myths and legends and major world religions. And this is very, very deliberate. The council seeded these names and stories on Earth so that when the time came to elevate the consciousness of the human race and reintroduce the council to souls incarnated on the earthly plane, we would already have a frame of reference. Now that time is now, and that's why I'm starting to be given so much information about how the Council of Light works and who these people are. And in fact, Sophia, my higher self, has explicitly asked me to start talking about the council in my blog and videos because these people are going to start coming and introducing themselves to us here on Earth. So I'm sure you would all like to know who the 10 are, and I'm going to give you their names and their responsibilities in order, starting with the lowest, finishing with the highest. The responsibilities of the council members equate to phases of social development. So in that sense, the council is hierarchical because obviously human development starts with the lower order areas and progresses to the higher order areas. It's our path through life, if you like. And in fact, it's a spiral path because we cycle through each phase more than once. But in every other regard, the 10 council members are completely equal. They all work together and they all help each other with their respective projects. I'm going to whiz through these quite quickly because I will do separate videos at some point for each of the 10 senior council members. So let's start with number 1. First of all, we have Shakti. And now Shakti in human tradition is a very senior goddess, and on the council she is responsible for religion and faith. As a personality, she's known for being extremely clever, although she also has a slight streak of impatience. Sorry, Shakti, but like all of the council, she is kind, she is benevolent, all the things you would expect from an ascended master. And you might wonder why religion is the first rung of the ladder. Well, if you think about it, at the very dawn of human civilization, belief in all sorts of gods and goddesses was a way for us to try to make sense of the world and the meaning of our existence. It's really actually quite a primitive mode of thought if you think about it. So that's why. Next we have Saturn. Now, as well as being the name of a planet, Saturn was also known in Roman times as the god of seed and of sowing, sowing with an O. And this is also very apt because Saturn's area of jurisdiction is foraging, agriculture and husbandry. And again, this makes perfect sense in terms of the hierarchy because once our tribe started to grow, we needed to think more about how we were going to feed ourselves. In terms of character, he's very popular, he's peace-loving, he's jovial, and he really just prefers the simple life. Thirdly, we have Agamemnon. Now, in Greek mythology, Agamemnon was the king who commanded the Greek armies in the Trojan War. Personality-wise, he's very, very forthright. He does not hold back in his views, and he likes to take the direct route as much as possible from A to B. He has responsibility for a few different areas. These are leadership, monarchy, dictatorship, war, sport, dogs, hunting, the physical body, and men. And you can see a lot of those as what you would consider maybe masculine traits. And we're actually starting to come to the end of an Agamemnon phase right now, which has been there entrenched for quite a while. Next we have Mammon. And the term Mammon, you might be familiar with it, it's used in the Bible to represent any entity to do with wealth. And again, it's very apt because Mammon looks after bartering, commerce, financial institutions, and of course money. And again, we're starting to come to the end of a Mammon phase. So in the future, the emphasis will be far less on accruing wealth for the individual and far more on using it for the well-being of society. In terms of his character, as you might expect, Mammon is known for being a little bit ostentatious. He really enjoys a bit of display. But again, you know, he is also very kind and generous as they all are. Next, we have a being who has been a great support to me through my own awakening, and that is Michael the Archangel. And by the way, I should say all of the 10 council members are angels or beings of light, which is what an angel is. And in fact, the original 144 are all angels. Another reason why it's called the Council of Light, actually. Michael stands for order. He's quiet and discreet, super intelligent, but he also has a very dry wit. And he looks after institutions, the machinery of government, policing, IT, technology, engineering, building, architecture. And we are deep in a Michael phase at the moment, especially in terms of IT and technology and engineering. And Michael will usually team up with each of the other council members to help them deliver their own projects in each phase of development, because they need structure, and that's what he's all about. So he's a very busy soul. And he is also very invested in the Earth Project. And he is starting to make more and more contact with incarnated souls, people like you, people like me. So do look out for him. He may come to you in a dream. He may come in meditation or through another form of trance. You cannot miss him. He's about 12 foot high and almost completely transparent. Next, we have Isis and Freya. I mention them together because they are such good friends and very similar in personality. They are exceptionally fun-loving. They have a lot of humour to them, and in the higher dimensions, everyone loves Isis and Freya. In terms of their responsibilities, Isis looks after the metaphysical arts, healing, sex, death, transformation, which are the same things really, cats, the energy body, and women. So lots of really big themes in there. And Freya looks after the visual arts, in fact anything creative apart from music, which lives elsewhere, and she is super creative. All of that includes traditional arts and crafts, but also TV, theatre, film, any media that you can think of really. She also has all aspects of design, fashion and beauty. And the thing about Freya is she really embraces diversity and she celebrates difference. She can come across as a little bit eccentric, but she does not care. And to give you an example, David Bowie came from very high up on the Freya branch of the soul tree. So that gives you a feel for what she's like. And we're moving into an Isis and Freya stage right now. In fact, you can see it happening all around you. And I know these two council members really well because I have a lot of interaction with them. And it gives me an enormous amount of hope for the next phase of our development. I think we're going to see a real lightening of mood and a real swing towards tolerance and acceptance. And I see many souls around me who are descended from the Isis and Freya branches of the soul tree. And it's clear that there are a lot of people out there with missions and they're all helping one another to move things forward, which is fantastic. Okay, the next two members of the Council of Light, taking us to 9, they also work closely as a team, and they are the souls Sophia and Om. And I have spoken about these beings quite a lot in my videos because I have had the most to do with them. Sophia is my higher self, or oversoul, which is the term that's used in the higher dimensions, and she is the soul that I am descended from. But Om has also acted as my higher self in the past, and it's not uncommon for oversouls to switch in and switch out once you reach a certain level of development, and you actually become quite attuned to knowing who is guiding you at any moment. And when I say oversoul or higher self, what I mean is your primary guide. That's what they are. There is always an oversoul present when you're incarnated on Earth. You are literally never alone, which I find really comforting. I like that. In terms of their roles, Sophia represents ultimate wisdom, Om represents ultimate compassion, and personality-wise, really the best way to think of them is as Zen masters. That is the vibe they give off, and they are also surprisingly humorous, although the two things aren't necessarily mutually exclusive. In fact, there's a lot of humour throughout the entire universe, I have discovered. And Sophia and Om are really similar. Although Sophia is a little bit more strict than Om, who is in fact a total softie. And their areas of responsibility go like this. Sophia looks after justice, the law, language, literature, philosophy, science, maths, education, all the cerebral stuff, and also the plant kingdom. And she also heads up the Earth Project. She's the sponsor of what is happening here on Earth. So she is, like Michael, really invested. Om is responsible for the higher emotions, the highest emotions like compassion, kindness, humility, forgiveness. And he also has charities, the animal kingdom, and children. And believe it or not, he has cooking. So if you want to make Om happy, cook something from scratch because he really loves it. And you never know, he might pop by to give you a few tips, as he does with me. Okay, so there's one more council member I'd like to talk about, and that is Lucifer. Now, Lucifer has a bad reputation on Earth, but it is entirely false. It's something that's been concocted by the various establishments through the ages to demonize him and to exert control. And in fact, Lucifer has the same seniority as Om. He is right up there and a very important entity. He looks after music, rebellion, independent thought, dissent, teenagers, perversion, addiction, and devilment. So you can see why the powers that be might have wanted to suppress him. I'm going to talk about Lucifer, the Lightbringer, in a lot more detail in another video because it's time we rehabilitated him here on Earth. But in the meantime, all I really want to say is just don't fear him, please. There's nothing to fear. He is an entirely benevolent being. So that is the 10 senior council members, and as I mentioned earlier, we each of us descend at soul level from one of them. This helps to determine our core characters at soul level, and the earlier in our journeys we are, the more we will be like the soul we descended from. And if we are born high up the soul tree, if we are an old soul, then these characteristics will be more pronounced than if we're born lower down the tree, where, as you can imagine, they will be more diluted. So no matter where we start on the soul tree, the end game for all of us is exactly the same. The objective is for us to learn all of the lessons from each branch of the tree, presided over by the 10 senior council members and their teams. And we do this by incarnating in life after life. We do this on Earth and we do it in other places across the universe. And we also learn in between lives in a more formal way in the higher dimensions. And what happens is the more lessons that we go through, the more blended we become. And by that, I mean we absorb the characteristics of each of the council members. Although our original character remains the most dominant, so we do keep that core of ourselves. And if you remember, each of the 10 senior council members descends from the architect and represents 10% of her being. Once we've completed our lessons, we effectively reach the same level as the architect. Now, that is what is meant by returning to God in the traditional religious teachings, or being part of God or the same as God. That is what we're all working back to, that we will be the same profile, if you like, as the architect. Also, when we reach a certain level as souls, as I mentioned, then we will automatically join the Council of Light. We need to be Bodhisattva status, which at the moment means that we must have an ability score of at least 98 out of 100. Now, if you watch my video on increasing your cosmic ability score, I explain this whole area in more detail. I'll put the link in the description for you. And as well as having an ability score of 98, we also need to have accumulated a certain number of karma points to join the council. Karma points are the way the universe measures how much benefit we contribute versus the amount of harm we inflict. It's measured within the life you're in, but it's also measured in a cosmic scale, like through every life you've ever lived. And no matter how long it takes, because of course we're all immortal as souls, we will all one day reach the requisite scores and become part of this really benevolent, far-reaching organisation that is called the Council of Light. So I hope this video has given you a better understanding of the Council and especially the 10 members of the Inner Circle. As we proceed through this time of mass spiritual awakening, more and more of the council members will be introducing themselves to members of their soul family incarnated here on Earth. In fact, you might already have met someone from your branch of the tree, and it's especially true from Michael upwards because that's the phase we're in. Those are the phases we're moving into. And in fact, if you're an old soul, you will probably meet more than one, as I did. So if you're going through your own awakening, look out for them. They are here to help you. They are here to encourage you, exactly as they have done for me. So until next time, take care, and most importantly, enjoy your journey.